Howdy y'all, my name is Danny Jack, and today we're talking about Ghost of Tsushima, an exercise in when open world gaming is done right. This samurai tale is born from the classics such as Kurosawa's Seven Samurai, developed by Sucker Punch Productions, who were known for their infamous series. They deliver an incredible samurai experience that spans the surprisingly massive island of Tsushima. You take control over the samurai Jin Sakai after a massive defeat to the invading Mongols at Komoda Beach. Jin is trying to save his people and his uncle from the Mongol invaders and the incredibly intimidating Khotan Khan. But of course, the Bushido Code, strict and demanding of the samurai, will not be enough for Jin to defeat his enemies, so he must adopt far more reproachable means of slaughtering the invaders of his homeland.
We look them in the eye with courage. Only cowards strike from the shadows.
Of course, Sucker Punch wants this more or less to be your choice throughout the game, deciding if Jin will go the path of the ghost, a shadow of death rising from the ashes of the defeated samurai, or the path of the honorable samurai, who faces their enemies head-on with the proper skill and soul, and without any of the amazing tools Jin picks up along in his journey that allow you to absolutely butcher the Mongol invaders. Personally, I think Uncle Shimmer is a little too strict. I mean, those ghost tools, man, they're bonkers, alright? Anyways, Ghost of Tsushima is a massive undertaking, spanning 3 acts separated in different sections of Tsushima Island, each having their own spliced up biomes and things to keep your blade occupied. You can see the heavy influence of games like Assassin's Creed almost instantly after opening the map, with dotted activities spanning them that are probably some of the most entertaining little objectives I've seen in an open world game in a while though. Of course, some of them are very familiar to anyone who's played an open world game in the last decade or so. There's the enemy strongholds you clear to reclaim them for the people of Tsushima, being rewarded experience or a technique point which you use to unlock some pretty fun sword skills or further enhance your dishonorable ghost abilities. Then there's a new spin on the climbing objectives, where once you'd go to some lookout tower, climb it, remove the fog of war to reveal further things to sidetrack you from saving the island. Instead, Ghost of Tsushima turns their objective into a platforming puzzle, where you climb these shrines whose pathways are marked by torii gates that have had their pathways destroyed by the Mongols or the people trying to stop the Mongols from reaching the top of the shrines. When you do finally make it to the summit, you are rewarded with, of course, a spectacular fucking view, which this game is filled with. Then you have these fox dens in which you follow the fox to an Inari shrine, which grants you charms as well, and the reprieve from killing to pet a gorgeous little fox lad. Then there's my personal favorite, the bamboo strikes, where you must successfully hit certain buttons in the right order with decent speed to upgrade Jin's resolve, which is a resource Jin uses to heal himself or perform incredible feats of the samurai and ghost alike. You can even take a moment and soak up the beautiful surroundings in this game and write haikus. Getting to these fun little side tracks and objectives is rather pleasant as well. If you're anything like me playing an open world game, I open the map every few minutes it feels like. In Ghost of Tsushima, the wind guides you to your next objective in a rather subtle and seamless way. The guiding winds are an incredible way to keep you focused on the gameplay, not having to pause your ride through the island and check if you're moving in the right direction, instead having these little tufts of grass or pollen or embers, wherever it is you are in the game, fly in the direction of whatever it is you had last marked. It's a very clever way to keep the player engaged on what's happening around them. There's also these little yellow canaries that guide you to hidden cosmetics like hats or a new sword sheath. They will also lead you to a new side quest, not to mention the pillars of smoke that guide you to Mongol strongholds or Mongol-controlled territories. Jin does all of this with his trusted steed, which you get to pick out right at the start of the game. I ended up picking a white horse and named it Nobu. This is also another really clever way of getting the player invested in something that could really just be considered a tool to move you from one objective to the next. Instead, now, you as a player are more invested in that horse that will be with you for the entire game. It's your horse, you've named it, picked its color, which almost immediately gives you a sense of ownership. It's a subtle little thing, but it makes the moments where your horse is laying down with Jin, resting on his belly, all the more meaningful to the player. But the real meat of Ghost of Tsushima is not just the incredible world design and how you traverse it, but the raw, brutal swordplay. Separated into 4 distinct styles, Jin is able to take on the varying types of invaders, from large brutes, spearmen, shield bearers, and iconic Ronin themselves, each stance having the ability to power through their defense and unleash a flurry of blows upon them. This all works relatively well. It's super tight and clean, from heavy attacks staggering the shield bar above the enemy, till they're eventually opened up to Jin's light attacks, which quickly butcher those heavily armored invaders. You can adapt to a playstyle that suits you as an individual as well, from being a perfect parry master and dealing a single lethal blow to the opened attacker, or dodge their attacks and roll back and with a series of consecutive strikes from one of the later adopted skills. Jin has an impressive skill tree that can be upgraded by completing objectives and side stories, you know, your usual stuff, but it's rather surprisingly quick too. Before I even reached Act 3, I had Jin fully decked out with abilities, minus one legendary skill that I would unlock about an hour later. This to me wasn't a problem though. The power scaling is perfect as you send Jin deeper into the island. The enemies become more aggressive and smarter with how they attack, and so do you. As your arsenal and abilities deepen, you remain on top of the enemy. This is what helped builds the idea of the horrifying ghost. As I played like a total bastard, the Mongols would run in terror from me as I slaughtered 3 of them with a chain assassination, then behead their leader in 2 swift strikes. But beyond the stellar gameplay and fulfilling side objectives, the story itself is presented pretty damn well. There's a few story beats that anyone who's ever watched a spaghetti western or samurai oldie would see coming, from an early betrayal to the slimy rogue joining the cause they wanted nothing to do with out of the gate. It's presented refreshingly well. The story itself is obviously drawn from those old Kurosawa movies, and there's not a damn thing wrong with that. One such way that's exemplified, besides the Kurosawa movie mode, which makes everything black and white and sound like it was recorded inside of a garbage can, the weather changes with how you play. The more you act as the ghost, the worse the weather becomes. So of course by the end of my game, it was a non-stop fucking monsoon. From impressive cinematic framing to small story beats that have more meaning than any side quest Assassin's Creed could ever try to present, you're sunken deep into the way of the samurai from the start. Each side quest, known as Tales of Tsushima, have their own beginnings and endings that still fit into the theme of the world itself. Having some that span the entirety of all 3 acts and culminating in some pretty epic endings, they all felt like their own movie happening within a much larger one. My particular favorite of the Tales of Tsushima was the story of Lady Masako, which you find relatively early and spans all the way to Act 3 like most of the named tales do. Its ending is pretty raw, but goddamn if the journey wasn't a fully realized story, by the end of it, I really felt for her. And that's most, if not all, the stories painted around the island of Tsushima, each having their own fully realized quality, much like those of the Witcher 3 side stories. There's a lot of care and detail put into these quests. The main story itself has some seriously incredible scenes that make the expected story notes a lot more forgivable. It all comes together and hits you with these explosive moments of blood and fury where you feel as if you are a legend for real. There's a moment about halfway through the game where you get something called Ghost Mode that lets you instantly condemn 3 enemies with 1 hit, and goddamn if that moment wasn't terrifying. I felt fear for the poor bastards in the line of sight of Jin at the time. And all this happens within an incredibly realized playground of color and bleakness. The island of Tsushima has been one of those maps I want to search every nook and cranny of, not only because it's absolutely gorgeous, but I'm often rewarded for even looking. Ghost of Tsushima is a wonderful title. If you have any interest in good swordplay at all, well-realized world building and storytelling, come give it a shot. I mean, if you're watching this video and like samurais at all, just buy it, damn it. Give the Mongols a reason to fear the ghost. Thanks for watching.